Peace and welcome to the show, folks. Today we got a number of great conversations. One, we're going to talk about what it means 10 years after Trayvon Martin, how black men are still being seen and treated. We're going to have that conversation with culture crew member B Fly and get into the crux of it. Also, what does it mean to be a patriot, especially at a time like this? I want to share some ideas from other scholars around this issue as we look at how we're affected, how we're seen, and our story is told collectively and abroad. Then at the 4 o'clock hour, we check in with Professor Gerald Horn, who's going to give us the latest insight about the latest in regards to this Russian-Ukraine war. Then at the 4:30 mark, folks, I got none other than go-go legend Sugar Bear, who's going to be joining us to talk about his national African American Museum exhibit. Yep, Go-Go is on display at the National African American Museum. So we'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. We got a lot to get to. It's the culture, only here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking into the culture here on the Black Star Network. Oh, my goodness. We got a lot to get to. First and foremost, happy Monday. Happy Monday. So here's something that I was thinking about for the weekend that I thought we need to kind of dig in a little deeper. On Friday, we had a conversation with Sister Melina Abdullah, the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter LA chapter, and she's also the tenured professor at Cal State, about Trayvon Martin 10 years later. And, there have been a number of stories that have come up in acknowledgement of the 10 years since Trayvon Martin was killed by George Zimmerman back in 2012. Now, if you remember, this is the high-profile case with George Zimmerman, not a police officer, but just some neighborhood watch guy who thought he was doing his due diligence to stop a young black boy by the name of Trayvon Martin from walking around the neighborhood. The fact was that Trayvon lived in the same community as George Zimmerman in Sanford, Florida, and was simply walking to the store with a hoodie. George Zimmerman felt as though he needed to do his part to, quote unquote, protect the neighborhood from individuals like Trayvon. Wind up getting into an altercation with the teenager and fatally shooting him. Now, this was the case that rocked the nation. It was actually during the trial of George Zimmerman, when he was given the verdict of not guilty, that the Black Lives Matter movement came to birth. It was this time where Black Lives Matter became the mantra of what some would call a new civil rights movement. And so today I wanted us to dig a little deeper. I wanted us to think more about why it's important that we not just acknowledge what has happened over these past 10 years, but I think we need to really say, okay, hold up. Has anything dramatically changed? Or are we just deluding ourselves in thinking that things have changed? Because a couple of police officers were convicted here. Some new video has been used for other cases to get people to become more aware there. But has it really changed the attitudes that people have about Black boys and Black men? And that's going to be the first conversation we have here today. Has this really changed? And I'm very happy to have this conversation with one of our culture crew members, B Fly, because B is a mother of a Black boy. So she's already And I know B. She's already been thinking about these things. But I felt like it was so important for us to not get into a place where we just kind of pass over it. I want to share with you a couple of things, folks, around this conversation. Y'all remember, and former President Barack Obama, he actually, you know, spoke on this with I believe it was the New York Times. He did an interview in last week in acknowledgement of this 10-year mark that we're at. I don't want to use the term anniversary because I guess anniversary sounds really jovial. Anniversaries make it sound like it's a happy occasion. We need to, I think language is very important. So I'm saying commemoration, acknowledgement, but it's not like an anniversary. It's not something that we should be happy to celebrate. We should acknowledge it, but it's still a very, very tough, hurtful situation. But according to some recent reports, there have been a number of conversations about Black boys still being dehumanized, Black men still being terrorized, and both Black boys and Black men being seen as not having any identity. I want to share with you just some of the pieces of this conversation. And this is a little bit hard because I have a son myself. I have an 8-year-old. I'm a Black man as well. And so when we have conversations about, Trayvon Martin, or when we have conversations about how Black men are seen through the eyes of police, or we have a conversation about Black men killing other Black men and boys, it's a very, very hard conversation. I think that it's important that we do have every so often, and we're definitely going to do this for Black women as well, especially as we go into Women's History Month. But there is a real, and I don't know any better way for us to end this year's Black History Month other than by stating, or by at least putting some spotlight on the preservation of life for Black men and Black boys. The preservation of life. Like, if there isn't any other New Year's resolution, it should be that we should do all that we can to protect the livelihood of Black men and Black boys. And if we can't make that commitment to ourselves, then we can't expect anyone else to make that commitment to themselves. But there has to be a change. There was a study that was published in 2014 that found that one result of the decades-long dehumanization of Black boys is that they're, quote, seen as older and less innocent, and that they prompt a less essential conception of childhood than do their white counterparts. This was a report. Now, this is 2014. This is 2 years after Trayvon was killed. But this report came as a result. It was called a report that was called The Essence of Innocence: Consequences of Dehumanizing Black Children. There were a number of co-authors on this report. But essentially, it said, quote, the social category children defines a group of individuals who are perceived to be distinct with essential characteristics, including innocence and the need for protection. This research examined whether Black boys are giving the protection of childhood equally to their peers. I want to stop there. Children are defined as a group of individuals who are perceived to be distinct with essential characteristics, including innocence and the need for protection. Do we look at Black boys as being innocent? Do we look at Black boys as being or needing protection? When you see a Black boy in the store, walking down the street, in the park, do you see someone who is a threat? Or do you see someone whose life needs to be valued, whose life needs to be protected? That's the big part of this conversation. Protecting the innocents. Because Trayvon wasn't seen as a Black boy who deserved innocence. Look at him. Look how young his face looks. He's wearing a hoodie, but look at how young his face looks. Look at his eyes. He needed to be protected. And this is no shade on his father, Tracy Martin. I remember seeing a picture, and I'm gonna try to see if my crew can find it. But do you remember that picture of Tracy Martin at the funeral of his son? And he was crying. And it was, the picture was so, I just never seen a man cry. Like, just looking at the picture, I cried. I've never seen a man cry so loud. You can tell it was like his whole heart came out of his chest as he sat there looking at the casket of his son, his young baby boy. He had 2 sons, right? Remember that. But his youngest son sitting in a casket, about to be lowered into the ground. And see, we can get into a space, family, where we think that somebody might deserve or they shouldn't have done something or that. But those are the type of attitudes that keep us from looking at the humanity of Black boys. Those are the type of attitudes that will allow Black boys to be killed or at least dehumanized. And we don't break a tear. We don't shed a tear about it. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. And this is a conversation that shouldn't just happen during Black History Month. It should happen every month. We have to preserve and protect and empower the innocence of Black children. We have to do it. Because there's already a system in place that takes away their innocence. That will make their childhood null and void. There's already a place for that, and that's called the world. That's called America. And we can't allow that. I'm going to take a quick pause. When we come back, I'm going to check in with Culture crew member B Fly. And I want to continue this dialogue around how do we stop dehumanizing Black boys and working to value and to protect the lives of Black boys and men. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We wanted to talk and get the conversation started around this idea of what we've seen over this weekend with the acknowledgement of the death and murder of Trayvon Martin 10 years later. And I just felt like it was important for us to continue this conversation, to not overlook it, especially by this being the final day of Black History Month. I don't think there is a message that should be emphasized more clearly than the value and the protection and preservation of Black life in this country. We can talk about the history. We could talk about the accomplishments. We can talk about where we are, some of the challenges. But at the end of the day, I think Black History Month, the greatest demonstration I think of this month, is always emphasizing the beauty, the essence, the value of Black life. And I'm starting with the boys and the men, and we will make sure we cover our sisters. But we can't leave this month without emphasizing protecting, preserving, cultivating, empowering Black life, Black boys, Black men. Because we have been broken as a result of us constantly being under attack, whether it's from our own or whether it's from folks outside of the community. In a moment, I'm going to go to Culture Crew member B Fly. But I want to share this with you because I talked to you about that first report that was done back in 2014 around this idea of protecting the essence of innocence and how Black boys are dehumanized and not even really seen as children. There are scientific studies, folks, that's showing that Black boys are not seen as children, even though they might be 7, 8, 10, 12, 14. Trayvon was a little young brother, but he wasn't seen as human by George Zimmerman. He was seen as a threat by simply walking to the store, by simply wearing a hoodie. Look at that face, man. And, you know, we can't just gloss over that. Because you have sons, nephews, grandsons, I know it, cousins, neighbors, little black boys that you see in your neighborhood or in your church or wherever you go. And you got to check yourself. We all got to check ourselves, like, how do we see our own children? Do you see them as a threat? Or do you see them as one who is worthy to be protected and valued? According to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, they said that this idea of how Black men has been seen was an idea that has been around for a long time. When white Americans were asked back in 1863 about the emancipation of Black Americans, the fear that was stoked, the anxiety that was stoked, was that Black men would exact sexual revenge against white men through their daughters. This is from the research in the archives of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. That museum noted that this fear-mongering had horrific repercussions for Black communities by bolstering stereotypes of Black men as animalistic and brutish, giving legal authority to white mobs and militia who tortured and killed Black men for the safety of the public. I heard Minister Farrakhan once say, and then I'm going to bring Beef Fly in. He said that your attitude, the attitude dictates belief. And then once those beliefs are hardened, they become laws. So we always got to go back to the attitude, because if you have a certain attitude about somebody and you don't go and try to check that attitude or try to learn more about that person or try to become more knowledgeable of that person and the shoes that they're walking in and their struggling journey, then your attitude will make you believe after a while that that's the way they are, because that's how they were created. And then you carry that belief through your life. You tell your friends and family, hey, this is, man, you can't go around them. They're a bunch of animals. The belief that just because you come from a poor neighborhood means that you are a poor individual, a poor human being. That's a belief. And then if you get into a position of influence and power, that belief becomes a law in everything that you do. And that's what we see in this country, in America, that these false narratives around how we see Black men have become codified in laws and policies that have kept Black men in a state of submission, caged up and confined. And then so the generations of Black men that are coming under these laws that were believed by individuals who had an attitude that Black men were animalistic and brutish, they come up under this believing themselves to be animalistic and brutish. So you're not cultivating, the laws aren't cultivating, the laws are discriminating. The laws are keeping Black men and boys in a place, in a prison, even though they may not be in a prison. I knew from growing up in Baltimore City, I had to work to get out of this prison. That's the burden of being a black man, a black boy in America. You grow up feeling like you're in a prison, confined, whether you're in the school, whether you're in the neighborhood, whether you're in a store, hell, whether you're in a place of worship. That prison. Because that attitude was always present. Somebody always reminded you that you are a black boy and you may not get as far as you want to get. Let's go to B Fly, Culture Crew member. B, how you feeling, sis?
I'm well, Farajii. How are you?
You know, I'm just thinking about this situation that we in, and you know, you and I have talked about this. I know your husband, he and, you know, Kariz, him and I, we've often talked about these things. But, you know, what's your take so far, B? You know, when we really reflect on why we in America in 2022, 10 years after the killing of this little young brother, Trayvon Martin, we're still at this place. How do we break out of this, B?
You know, Farajii, in my humble opinion, because I am not a man, but I think we have a problem with the patriarchy. And so the idea of you being a part of this system of prey it seems to be connected to the idea of you being a predator as well. And this is connected to patriarchy. You know, I mean, you were speaking and I thought about Moses. Moses too was born during an edict and of let's kill all boys born under the age of 2.
Right.
You know, like this is real, like this. And so when we think about the role of patriarchy, you know, this idea sets man up from the time you're born. There is no time within the patriarchy when we're able to see your innocence, when we're able to actually embrace the idea of protecting you, when we are training you to protect the world, when we're training you to scavenge the world for the resources. And as a result, you know, this patriarchal idea, you know, has impacted the Black man, has impacted the Black woman. And it's time for us to really start to divest from these notions, you know. And so it's a lot of these notions that I find myself struggling with as I raise my 5-year-old son. You know, it's I watch him struggle with crying. Somewhere along the line, he has already received the deposit of don't cry when you are afraid or frustrated or hurt or scared. And so within our parenting, you know, we embrace his tears. And within that process, I learn my husband every day, because it's still a struggle for him to embrace his tears. So what happens, Farajii, when you take this idea of you being imprisoned everywhere and you don't leave it outside, it still comes home with you?
Come on.
And so even in the place where you should feel the safest, you know, the idea of the patriarchal head of household brings so much pressure today, even though we are all in a position of being balanced. But that balance between us destroys the idea of patriarchy. So how does the Black man start to affirm and validate his own life, his own soul, his own moral compass without the lens of your oppressors. That right there is where the work, I believe, is. And it's starting to happen now. And this is, I believe, a very new consciousness of men coming together in order to unpack the narratives that are competing in your head. How do you, and it's coming to this place of it's difficult for you to protect us while we're protecting you. And it's the patriarchy. I blame the patriarchy before I blame Jim Crow, because it has existed pre Jim Crow, pre-slavery. We have this notion of men being superior. We have, and how does that affect your human plight? And so it's like once I believe the collective male consciousness, the collective Black male consciousness is able to have this conversation internally.
Yeah.
And then able to turn this conversation around and open it up to where it's not so private, to where we can also learn while you learn. I think that's going to be important for all of our children, and that's the part, we're in this place where we can abandon our genders, but we still have this struggle with protecting Black boys. Like we're getting ahead of ourselves within humanity, and so and with that, we can't expect them to lead. We can't expect the thems. You really have to turn the mirror around and do the work, because it is paining. It's paining you. It's paining us as a nation. And we can't just look externally anymore. Like, yes, the data's in, but there's internal work that has to be done.
I love the fact that you mentioned that, because it forces us to get into a place where we must get reflective, as a country and as a community, right? Because just as much as we are pointing the finger or blame on, like you said, on patriarchy and other systems that have come out of the belief system of white supremacy, right? Then we also have to look at the role that we have played as a community to see, have we kind of served our boys up on a silver platter when we don't give them the knowledge of, who they are, share with them the knowledge of the history? Have we given them up and put them on a silver platter when we have exposed them to harmful elements too early on in their growth and development? You know what I mean? Whether you're talking about 4 and 5-year-olds learning trap music and learning how to throw signs up with their hands and talking about how they, doing this and doing that, but they're not proficient in the basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. Have we served our boys up on a platter when we haven't taught them the value of their woman counterpart, their female counterpart, and shared with them and said, like, this is a woman that's worthy, like every girl and woman that you come across, you give her your respect.
And so let's talk about worth, because worth is a conversation that we always tend to couch in femininity, but we never couch worthiness within masculinity. And there is the problem. And so, and if you can't have a conversation with yourself about your moral compass and your virtue, if you don't teach your son the importance of virtue, and you teach your daughter,
Yeah.
then we are still perpetuating we're perpetuating the idea that the patriarchy is soulless. We're perpetuating this idea that masculinity is without morality and it's okay. And therein lies the problem. Therein lies the contradiction. And at the end of the day, you are human. And so you have to be able to embrace that. You know, I love it when my son spits rap lyrics. I love it when he sings pop songs. My son also is proficient in prayer. And so that is important along with all of the rogue memorizations that happen in life. And so if you aren't arming yourself, if you aren't arming your children, then how do you expect them to fight this fight? And I'm not really talking about the economic battle. I'm talking about the spiritual war. And that part is where we find ourselves in this crosshairs right now.
No doubt. And that's and right there, B, is why we need to have this conversation. Because I want to have the same conversation around Black girls as well, right? But there has to be a balance. And one of the things
we're having this conversation with the women are converse. The women tell the men.
Right.
We are participating in this conversation on a regular basis. We are starting the conversations in a lot of situations. It needs to be turned around now.
Yeah. Where men are doing it. Let me just say this. And you already know this, B. I mean, there are many initiatives and efforts by Black men for Black men in Baltimore. I know that. I know men are doing it in major cities across the country: Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, Philly, Miami. I mean, Black men of consciousness are on the ground and doing their part to make sure that other Black men are saved, right? To make sure that Black boys are seen as human. So that's certainly not the direction of this conversation. What I want this conversation to be is that we have to be intentional about how we're going to be moving forward. Like, there's nothing else about Black history, women's history, any history other than the present. I mean, the preservation of life is the first priority. That's the first priority. We can't talk about what is, the great ones, the heroes and the sheroes that have walked before us. And then when we get to this time frame, to this era, we got nothing. We only can rely on what happened 50 and 60 years ago. But what can be said about what happened after Malcolm X and Dr. King? What happened with Black men and Black women from the 1970s to 2022 for those 50 years? Because I know for me, B, a lot of people, it's always going back to that time frame, as if, and I'm gonna just say this, as if there has not been any effort to save and preserve the lives of Black boys within that 50 years. And I will challenge anybody who thinks that the 50 years or 60 years ago, when those luminaries were walking among us, that was the greatest time in our life. I think this is the greatest time in our lives because we got those luminaries to look back on, to gain from, to find some substance in, and then we can move forward. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis.
It's in the past 50 years, an amazing thing has happened, Farajii. The number of Black men in college has surpassed the number of Black men in prison. That's real, So you're right. We're not going to have a conversation that's as if Black men need to do more. There's that conversation that's already present, you know. And what do you do, Farajii, when you are living in the land of your kidnappers? What is you understand? So to me, I understand the core of Black rage, and I also understand the core of Black fear, because understand the cellular fear of Zimmerman. What if Trayvon knew who I really am? Cellularly, we are still in the land with the people and the descendants of the ones who literally enslaved us. And we have had no reparation. There has been no acknowledgement. We are just expected to do right and to stay within our zone. And so, yes, there has been a powder keg for 50 to 100 years, bubbling to the surface. And there are systemic resources that are put in to quell that. All righty. Yep. So we have, and that's what that is. So drugs and low vibrational music, and we can go on and on and on about how easy it is to be distracted. And so it's important to understand that the time of policing each other needs to be over. You know, there's really a way to walk down the street with an energy of each one teach one. Facts. And it is real. The more that happens, the more infectious that becomes, the more campaigns that exist online that are able to highlight the full gamut of Black male personality, of Black male emotion. It gives other Black men a solace, a relief of like, wow, I feel that too, you know? And so, and we all need that. We all need to be recognized as human, but we also have to hold ourselves to a human code. And when we don't, and when we blame, we do have an internal issue. So, I mean, you know, and that's just what it is for Farajii, you know? The work is happening. I feel positive. Let's keep on making more babies. Up this population growth.
Right, I hear that. Look, I'm going to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll have more conversation with B Fly here on The Culture. So stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about this larger picture of America's disdain toward or disdain for Black boys and Black men. And Friday on this past weekend, on Saturday, was the 10 years since the killing of Trayvon Martin. And we wanted to at least have the conversation about the importance and the value of preserving the lives of Black men and boys. And we've been talking to Culture Crew member B Fly to give us her take as she's raising a 5-year-old Black boy, and I'm raising an 8-year-old Black boy. And, you know, we're in a place in this country where we need to look at how do we create an environment where our sons, our nephews, our grandsons feel protected. And I shared with you a couple of the historical pieces from the National History of African American Museum and Culture Museum, where they talked about how this anxiety and fear mongering among white people in this country from the late 1800s all the way up until now has been on constant display. Even today, I mean, when we talked about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, the quote unquote watch captain of the neighborhood that Trayvon Martin was living in, how he felt it was his duty to confront Trayvon the way he did. But we can take it a step further and talk about the number of incidences where police officers have decided to take the lives of Black boys and Black men unapologetically, mercilessly, in a way that showed that our lives still are not preserved and not protected. I want to share with you a little bit more around this issue because the cycle continues, folks. And unless we're going to ramp up our efforts, I'm concerned that we're going to still see more deaths of Black boys, dehumanization of Black boys, fear mongering around Black boys. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned that in a society where critical race theory and Black history and all of those elements to teach a person about where they come from, where this country has come from, and all of those things will be erased. And so the Black boy of tomorrow is going to be raised based on a conscience of, once again, of white fear. Brother Roland has a book out that's going to be coming out this year. Can't wait to check it out. Can't wait to read it. Speaking to that level of white fear and how that white fear continues to dictate, dominate, and decide on how or determines rather how we move forward in this engagement with one another. I want to go back to my culture crew member, B Fly. B, thank you again for joining us. This is a big conversation, and I'm aware, B, that there is no one answer. There's no silver bullet. I think that there are a number of things that would have to happen on a national level, a state level, a local level when you're talking about political gains. But when you're talking about cultural gains, what needs to take place? What are some of the big things that you need that you want us to consider, that we need to consider when we talk about the dehumanization of Black boys and Black men?
You know, I think we should consider taking that into our great sort. You know,
yeah,
we should consider taking that anguish into actual communal land. We should be figuring out a way how to repopulate the earth.
You said have more babies.
Yes, to repopulate and to divest from the metropolitan lifestyle that has not served us.
Yeah.
And I'm a city girl, you understand? And so, but the big city does not serve us. It never has. And we're looking for belonging in a place that has not paid their due to us. And so, you know, here's the funny part, and here's the ironic part. The way white fear works is the way you may run from your creditors.
Right.
You know,
right.
You pick up the phone and you hear, this call is being recorded. Can I speak to your government name?
Right.
You owe us money. And it's like, oh. Okay, but we don't walk around and kill Comcast. That's not what we do.
Come on.
Somehow,
right. No, we don't.
But Comcast participates in our killing. And this is what we experience, you know, in a macro and a micro level all day, every day. It's dizzying, you know? And so it makes us superhuman in an extremely and this scares our enemy. And our enemy is privileged in this land. And our enemy's fear of us is justified because America has not paid its debt. And it knows it. It knows
and
it.
You know what, B? That's an excellent point, because, you know, you would think that at this point, this is one of the frustrating parts for me. You would think that at this point, that if that leadership, right, in this country would say, you know what, we haven't been getting far with this group of people. And we found that as a result of that, the country is not getting far. The country is in a decline right now. So how about we do something different?
That would require those said leaders to own their humanity as well. And our leaders are challenged in that
by their own humanity.
But 70% of said leadership is also beholden to the idea of patriarchy. And so it's this cycle that is eating you alive.
It's not just eating us alive, it's destroying us, B. This is destroying us. And you know what? We heard the president say this, former President Barack Obama, saying that what we saw with the killing of Trayvon Martin reflects the original sin of this country. And I'm going to go back to one of the points that you made, that we can have conversations about changing up our agenda. But the original sin, because that's a new change, right? Where we are with that piece. And I'm not getting into that. But the original sin is still left unattended.
Yeah, we have an itemized line that's left open and on red for 500
right.
years.
I love it. I love how you said that.
Understand.
Yeah.
The American QuickBooks system is flawed, and they know this. And so this feeds their fear. It feeds the fear. And until that flame is acknowledged, then we will be having this conversation perpetually. Because we are still collectively a moral people. We do not actually believe in eye for an eye, evidently. Because if we did, America would have been blinded long time ago.
Sure.
But that's not the soul of Black folk. The soul of Black folk really want understanding and community.
So we got like 30 seconds left, B. What would you say would be the big point that you want our watchers to hold on to from this part of the conversation, at least?
Look deep into the mirror. Stare yourself in the eye and tell yourself great things. Every day.
Every day.
One day. Tell yourself great things.
I love it.
Let that fill your mind, let that echo and take you into the street and transcend all of which we have been transcending.
Let me add to that, B. Be intentional when you're engaging with Black men and Black boys. Be in the conscious present moment. And what do I mean by that? I'm simply saying, don't just treat every Black man, every Black boy that you come across the same. Be intentional in recognizing their humanity. Because every time I look in my son's eyes and in his beautiful face, I have to reset myself. So when he asks me a question, could be something I may not have never thought of. It could be something about the world that he's in. I have to reset myself to say, okay, now I'm ready to answer your question. Now I'm present because I value and I see your worth, and whatever you say coming out your mouth that you deem is important to you, it's important to me.
Okay.
Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's switch conversations. Let's talk about the latest that's happening in the Russian-Ukraine war. The United Nations is actually having a meeting right now with world leaders to determine how the UN is going to move forward in this situation. We'll be joined by Professor Dr. Gerald Horne to give us some insight as well. Stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. The first hour, we had some great conversation discussing the dehumanization of Black boys and Black men in this country as a result, based upon the commemoration of the killing of Trayvon Martin, the acknowledgement of that day on February the 26th in 2012. Well, we want to continue that conversation. We will continue that conversation and have more discussions. I'm going to bring in more voices. And of course, we're going to look at the impact of the dehumanization and the sexualization of Black girls in this country as well. So expect those conversations. But now we want to switch gears and get into a dialogue about the latest developments around the Russia-Ukraine war. As we speak, folks, the United Nations Security Council is holding a meeting to discuss the situation in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials announced today that dozens of civilians were killed and hundreds more wounded when Russian forces began firing at civilian areas in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. According to the head of the Kharkiv Regional State Administration, called the attacks, quote, a war crime, saying that, quote, the Russian enemy is shelling entire residential areas of Kharkiv where there is no critical infrastructure, where there are no positions of the armed forces of Ukraine that the Russians could aim at. Now, delegations from Ukraine and Russia met in Belarus on Monday morning, earlier today, in an attempt to negotiate a ceasefire. And as Russian stock exchange remains closed and the ruble plummets. Here to give us some other details and insight about this evolving situation is Professor Dr. Gerald Horne, who we spoke to last week, as he is a professor that talks about the issue of race and war and looking at the relationships within that part of the world and how it impacts us here at home. So let's bring Dr. Gerald Horne back into the conversation. Dr. Horne, always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for your time again, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Dr. Horne, a few things. One is the this UN conversation, this UN meeting that I'm looking at right now. The UN I've heard that Russia is not really concerned about how the UN is planning to address this scenario, this situation. But how, give us some insight about what do you think this UN Security Council meeting? What should we expect from this gathering?
Well, as you know, pursuant to the structure of the United Nations, Russia has a veto over whatever the Security Council might propose. And in any case, its close ally and partner, China, the People's Republic of China, also has a veto. You may have noticed that yesterday, when there was a debate at the Security Council of the United Nations, India, a close ally of Russia, abstained, as did the United Arab Emirates. Now, the debate today is at the General Assembly. That's the body of 193 plus nations on planet Earth. The Security Council, of course, is a body of about 15 nations with 5 permanent members, led by the United States, Russia, China, Britain, and France. And what the General Assembly was debating today was basically advisory. I should also mention that African nations are split on this question. You might have seen the condemnation of Russia by the representative from Kenya, but as reported by the US government-sponsored Voice of America, the South Africans, who of course have a relationship with Moscow stretching back to the time when they were fighting apartheid and were being armed by Moscow, are not necessarily sympathetic to the Ukrainians. And in any case, there's a lot of concern in Africa right now about how African students in Ukraine are being treated, or should I say maltreated, as there's this helter-skelter evacuation from Ukraine. Many African students, many of whom are studying medicine and are from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Egypt, from Morocco, are complaining that they're not being allowed to get on trains, or they have to wait 8 hours in order to force their way onto a train. And you're probably familiar with Nicole Hannah-Jones, the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. She's been remarking upon the coverage on MSNBC, CBS, the other US networks, which she says has been racially biased. She finds it curious that you've had certain correspondents referring to so-called, quote, civilized, unquote, Ukraine, in contrast with what they see as a perceived lack of civilization in, say, Afghanistan or Iraq. And she saw that, and she sees that as racially coded. So there are a lot of issues that we have to grapple with regard to this current crisis.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things that I'm seeing here on this side of the waters, Dr. Horn, which is, you seeing, I saw that video over the weekend of, white Ukrainians pushing back against black Ukrainians or black folks, black Africans. And it made me think about how so quick the sentiment around as a result of war, how so quick now, because of the age of social media, because of communication, it's just like, first we know that Russia and Ukraine were at war and at odds enough with one another. Now we're starting to see that, wait a minute, Black African students and Ukrainians have been in a conflict themselves. And so us here in America, I'm seeing some people say, well, we got to pray for the Ukrainians. But then there's another group of Black folks that are also saying, hey, we got to help these Black African students as well. And I'm wondering, do we need to get into that type of dynamic? Do we need to, quote unquote, pick sides? Is that the smart thing to do? Is that the best thing to do, considering that this whole situation can go from 0 to 100 in a very short period of time?
Well, I'm not sure if we have to pick sides, but I do think we're obligated to intervene on behalf of our brothers and sisters in Eastern Europe. Okay. And I think this is important for a number of reasons. Number one, sir, you've had members of the Congressional Black Caucus basically endorsing the Biden administration sending hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine, which in a sense is throwing gasoline on the flames, is not necessarily bringing the region towards peace. But not only that, one has to wonder, where are these millions of dollars coming from but for our tax dollars? And is this the best expenditure of our tax dollars when we have homelessness and hunger and students in need of scholarships and all the rest? And then secondly, you see that this is an opportunity for us to link arms with the leaders in Africa. President Buhari of Nigeria, for example, has expressed dissatisfaction with how Nigerian students are being maltreated in Ukraine. This is an opportunity to extend solidarity and win chits from Nigeria, the most populous nation on the African continent, the most powerful economy on the African continent. And that's a matter of pragmatism, but it's also a matter of morality. And it's also a matter of Pan-Africanism, which I had thought was a reigning ethos amongst Black Americans, but perhaps I was wrong.
So what type of support, Dr. Horn, can we give to Black African students from the various parts of the continent? What can we do?
Well, you have U.S. consulates throughout Ukraine and in Poland as well, because many of these students are trying to escape to Poland, which has a conservative, right-wing, racist government. We need to know what the U.S. legations and consulates, what they're doing in order to help our brothers and sisters over there. Now, they may complain, well, these people don't carry a blue U.S. passport, so they have nothing to do with the United States. And that's why we have to intercede and interject and say, no, as a matter of humanity, the folks that you're helping in Ukraine, they don't have U.S. passports either.
Right.
So what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. And of course, we need to start with our own representatives, with the Congressional Black Caucus, 4 dozen plus strong, with representatives and congresspersons in Washington, D.C., from New York and Cleveland and Los Angeles and Chicago and Houston. What are they saying and what are they doing on behalf of our brothers and sisters over there? What are they saying to the U.S. embassies and consulates in Eastern Europe? Because they're also trying to escape to Romania. They're trying to escape into Hungary. These are not necessarily progressive regimes. And so we need these congressional representatives to step up and earn their salary.
And I would wholeheartedly agree, sir. I mean, I would wholeheartedly agree, because I feel like this is getting back into a space of race, right? And we're seeing it with Africa and versus Ukraine. And this is, and I honestly, Dr. Horn, I foresaw that, in the midst of this big moment, in the midst of bombs dropping, that we're going to start seeing having other conversations, seeing other stories. I saw this happening. So I do think that we need to be very, and I was telling my wife this, I said, before we jump on this bandwagon, we should kind of take the time to understand the history of Black people in that part of the country, the challenges that they've undergone, how have they been, how have they been suffering. We need to get a better understanding of who is at the table and all the players right now, because I'm not going to just throw something on social media and say, oh, I'm going to just go for this person or go for that person without having a full understanding of that history for that part of the world.
Well, I think you're correct. And this is a time to resuscitate and revive 2 old sayings that oftentimes accompany war. One is that truth is oftentimes the first casualty of war.
Facts.
The second is that in war, truth and fact is so precious, it has to be guarded and protected by a bodyguard of lies. And as I peruse the coverage in the New York Times, in the Washington Post, in CNN, in MSNBC, and also in Al Jazeera, France 24, I see a lot of weaknesses. And that's why you can't take what you're seeing or reading at face value, because oftentimes these press organs that I've just enumerated, they have skin in the game. So you can't necessarily expect them to be neutral or objective. They're basically acting as cheerleaders. And so one has to be very careful about what one accepts at face value from these so-called journalists who oftentimes are no more than editorialists.
I want to bring back our culture crew member B Fly into this part of the conversation as we've been talking to Dr. Gerald Horne and giving us some insight about this latest development in Russia and the Ukrainian war. B, what's your take on this? What are your thoughts or questions for Dr. Horne?
Hi, Dr. Horne. How are you doing today?
It's all good.
You know, I am noticing this this trend right now of American celebrities flocking to Russia to lend their support. You know, I'm seeing Sean Penn jump on planes to help negotiate hostage situations. I'm seeing Elon and Kanye taking selfies on satellites, bringing Ukraine internet. What else do you think is happening, like under the current? It seems like, so just yesterday we were in pandemic. Mask mandates have been lifted. Well, will be lifted tomorrow throughout the city and the schools. And now we're in an entirely new disaster. Like we've had no breathing room. There's been no time to go to church. It's just been from one catastrophe to the next. And it seems like the dollar is continuing to get hit. And these new currencies are saving the day. Like, is this the time to start pulling out of what we know is familiarly backed federally funds and really start investigating these new cryptocurrencies? Like, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Oh, sorry for interrupting you. Irrespective of what I say, it's apparent that there's going to be a movement away from the dollar as a result of this crisis. Now, this is not something I'm advising. I'm just telling you what's going on. And I say this in part because it's clear that the United States is going to try to collapse the Russian ruble. That's in headlines as we speak. You've had a plummeting of the Russian ruble. The Russians have a major stock of dollars and euros that they had planned to use for this crisis. The United States is going to try to nullify that. So it's apparent that Russia and Russians will be moving into certain kinds of cryptocurrencies. At the same time, as I said the last time I was on this program, I think that the ultimate target for this crisis from the point of view of the United States and its allies is the People's Republic of China. But it's very difficult to confront the People's Republic of China directly as long as major investors in China include Microsoft, Tesla, Apple, KFC, GM, etc. And so the move is to basically weaken China's major partner, which happens to be Russia. And so if that happens, because I think what's at stake is not only a proposed regime change in Kiev, it's also a proposed regime change in Moscow. If the latter happens, that will then lead to an encirclement of China, an attempted strangulation of China. And China already is trying to have an electronic currency, which will probably be accelerated as a result of this crisis. And they too will be moving away from the dollar. And as I mentioned last time as well, we're going to see a spike in energy prices because Russia is a major player in energy, not only coal and natural gas, but oil, petroleum, that is to say gasoline, what you use to fill up your car. And so this is a major crisis that's going to affect us all. And I'm sure that many people, particularly in the Northeast, are hoping that winter ends sooner rather than later, because if there's the predictable snowstorm in March, which usually accompanies the transition from winter to spring, I'm sure many people are hoping that it takes place before there's a jump in home heating oil prices and natural gas prices.
Yep. And to add to that, Dr. Horn, when we look at you talked about how America is going to be is positioning itself as breaking down the financial backing and the systems. I mean, is this a new form of warfare that President Biden is employing as a result of as a result of that so many countries global are like sharing global resources, and that instead of boots on the ground, instead of the fact that America is so fractured politically, that this seems like this is the best way to handle this situation, that you destroy the economic infrastructure of this country. Do you foresee that this is going to be the strategy moving forward?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's apparent that the United States is probably going to be using cyber warfare against Russia,
okay,
which could weaken its industrial infrastructure. It could weaken its telecommunication system. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised that Russia has not tried to shut down telecommunications in Ukraine, because you have all of these Twitter posts and Facebook posts coming out of Ukraine. And I'm wondering why they haven't tried to shut that down. But I guess that perhaps they're concerned about retaliation from Ukraine's allies. On the other hand, trying to destroy a nation's infrastructure is nothing new in war. I mean, look at the wars with Iraq in 1990 and 2003. One of the first things the United States did was to try to destroy Iraq's industrial infrastructure. Iraq has hardly recovered from those two attacks, those two wars, and here we are in 2022. The difference might be that Russia is a formidable partner to grapple with. You may have noticed that just yesterday, President Putin put Russia's nuclear forces on high alert.
Fact, yes, sir.
Which is quite ominous because, of course, there are Russian nuclear submarines off the east coast of the United States. There are Russian missiles that can hit U.S. cities in a matter of minutes. And so we have to be very careful nowadays with regard to what's being proposed to attack Russia, because this is not Iraq, this is not Afghanistan, this is not Libya. This is a major military superpower.
And I'm so happy that you brought that up, Dr. Horn, because that was going to be my next point, which was, what do we make of the fact that President Putin did do that he did put his army into high alert for a nuclear weapon? And I mean, when I saw that, Dr. Horn, when I saw that headline, I said, "Oh my goodness, this went from dropping bombs to this man really trying to just demolish." And I kept hearing your words. I lied to you not, Doc. I kept remembering the words that you shared with us just on Friday. It was a Thursday, and you kept saying nuclear. We kept talking about it. This could go into a space of a nuclear war. And I said, and even then I was like, okay, I hear what the doc's saying. You're right. But then when I saw that news coming across the wire yesterday, Dr. Horn, I talked to my wife about it, and I said, this guy, Putin, not you, he's in a whole different level. I mean, he's thinking in a whole different league. I mean, he is not for play, as they say. And I was concerned. I was really concerned because we don't know him. We don't live under his leadership, right? Some people say that Trump is akin to Putin. I don't even think that. I mean, Trump done some crazy things, but it's hard for me to wrap my mind around these two individuals. I mean, you see pictures, look at this guy. I mean, you see the pictures of this guy, but you see Putin and you see something else. And this is not about fear mongering as much as it is about not taking your eyes off of this man, or not taking him for granted about what he's willing to do. I don't know how to reconcile this new reality that we're in, that this man put his people on high alert to use nuclear weapons in 2022. I don't know what to make of that, Dr. Horn.
Well, I'm glad you're raising this question. And going back to Thursday, when I was last on your program, recall that one of your fans, one of the members of your audience, said that we were engaged in clickbait, that we were basically trying to be alarmists. And I hope that that fan or that audience member is following the news, because if anything, we were just predicting what was about to unfold. And I think that understandably, in our community in particular, there's a desire to see that the situation does not get worse. Given all the disasters and catastrophes our people have been through, we don't want to go through any more catastrophes or disasters. I get that. But at the same time, you have to be realistic. You have to be aware of the fact that this is a wartime situation, that on the other side of the barricades is a nuclear power, that the Western Europeans have had a historic problem with Russia. Because if you look at your map, one of the things you'll see is that most of European territory is Russian territory. Most of European natural resources, be it gold, uranium, or natural gas, or coal, is on Russian territory. If you look at the demographics, you'll quickly see that Russia's population, even after the collapse of the Soviet Union, is twice the size of the population of the number 2 country, that is to say Germany. So historically, these Western European countries, particularly Britain and France, that style themselves as global powers, particularly in Africa, they haven't necessarily been the rulers on their own continent. And so that's led to this historic centuries-long attempt to reign in Russia. They thought that they had accomplished that with the collapse of the Soviet Union, and then the rise to power following the Soviet Union collapse with Boris Yeltsin. But those days are over. Russia is back. And so once again, this struggle, how do you reign in Russia, which is the mantra in not only London and Paris and Berlin, but Washington too, that too is back.
Dr. Horn, all I can say is, this situation here has unfolded in such a way. If folks, if you have been keeping up on the news out of Ukraine and Russia, this thing is unfolding very fast. And I'm still of the belief, Dr. Horn, and at this point, I feel like America is going to be dragged in. And I'm not trying to, add more clickbait. It feels like America is going to be dragged into this situation, and this is not going to be a European problem. This is going to be a world problem. It's already showing signs of that because of the economic side of things. But I'm saying in regards to the military, I don't foresee it just staying within the bounds of Europe or that part of the world. I think it's very close. You just made the point. When you have those submarines along the east coast of this country, it's very troubling, to say the least. Dr. Horn, we got to let you go, I know, but trust and believe we will certainly bring you back, sir, as more developments continue to happen. Thank you so much for checking in.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's switch gears again. We're going to check in with go-go legend Sugar Bear and talk about the Great Go-Go exhibition at the National African American Museum. Oh, my goodness. Stay riding with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
am Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. I'm very excited about our next guest, and I'm sure B-Fly is as well, as we continue to talk about the culture. My next guest is certainly no one that is a stranger to culture. He has been doing the great work of doing live performances and getting the word out and getting the sound and the vibe of go-go music out. His group, he serves as the member, as the founding member and lead singer of the group Experience Unlimited. And now his work is now being rewarded as EU has his own exhibition. Oh my goodness. His own exhibition at the National African American Museum there in Washington, D.C. It is such an honor, privilege, and pleasure to welcome to the airwaves of the Black Star Network and to the culture, Gregory Sugar Bear Elliott. Sugar Bear, how are you, dear brother?
I'm truly blessed. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Oh my gosh. In a few moments, we're going to bring back another creative. I want to bring culture crew member B-Fly into this conversation because your music, dear brother, first, it's really a pleasure to have you on to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been waiting. So I'm here now. Yeah.
Well, we are happy to have you, brother. We are certainly happy to have you. First and foremost, people may not know. I know, but I want you to tell the people, how did you get the name Sugar Bear?
Lady used to babysit me, Ethel Knight. She passed away, when I was younger, like going to aftercare.
Yes.
Because I used to eat super sugar crisps all the time. And she said I started looking like the bear on the box. So it stuck with me.
It stuck with you.
Yep. So ever since middle school, it's just been all my life, yeah.
So the street know you as Sugar Bear. You're like, who's
Yes.
Gregory Elliott?
Yeah.
All right, so talk to us about the first. You do have this exhibition at the National African American Museum. How did that happen, Sugar Bear?
Well, it's always good to be ready at all times. What happened? We from Washington, D.C., so and we was trying to elevate our sound, our music, and then all these politicians asked us, did we want to open up for the African American Museum down at the Washington Monument? And of course, we said yes. And we also said, well, do you have a section for EU and all that we done, all the years and labor that we put into our culture? And they said, that's a surprise. So that was a surprise. They added us in, and I'm still floating off of it because it's like, it's there, and it never can go nowhere unless, God called us home, but it's still there. It's there, and I'm grateful for that.
So how long has the exhibition been up, dear brother?
5 years now.
Wow.
5 years, yeah.
And I don't think, look, let me just tell you, I don't think a lot of people knew.
Right, because it wasn't no big thing about it. Everybody was showing that when they got inside, the ones who went inside, they saw it. They was like, wow, that's EU. And they remember, and they go back to the school days, to the butt and all that. And there it was. So I was very happy about that. Very happy about that.
So you, the other work that you do, not only are you an accomplished musician. No, I'm serious. You're an accomplished musician, but you also are an educator. You're a special education teacher as well.
Yes, yes.
How long have you been doing that work?
26 years. 26, yes.
No, and you know what? My wife is an educator, and I always say, and I truly believe this, brother, that anytime you go into the classroom, whether it's special education or whatever, that it has to be a calling.
Yeah,
it's not just definitely a job; it's a calling.
Yeah, that's my way of. I always want to find something, a way to give back. You know what I mean? And so God put me there for a reason, because I became like a father figure. I became friends with them. I make them laugh. I make them smile. Some of them are nonverbal, and it's amazing to see that smile when they respond to what I be saying. And it's just a great experience, man. I love it. It's very challenging. Don't get me wrong, but it's not even about the money. I just go there because I love to do it, and it's my way of giving back. And I thank God He put me in that position, because I trusted a lot of lives. He allowed me to.
And you gotta have a heart and the patience for that work, right?
Yes.
You like.
Like I said, it's not about the money. You gotta have the passion and the love. And I have love for all our people. But when you see special needs children, it makes you appreciate life. At least me. It makes me appreciate it. Yes.
So it's by you being in being in two worlds, at least two worlds rather.
Yes.
Because you're a go-go legend, you are an educator, you actually teach about the history of go-go.
Yes.
And all of the the great ups and downs of that genre. But then you also are like now being kind of lifted up as being, can we say icon? Are you comfortable with that?
Whatever you want, whatever you want to put it.
I want.
Just say Black history. That'll settle it all. I'm Black history.
You Black history, right?
Yes.
Right.
Black history is perfect.
And speaking of Black history, by us being this is the last day of Black History Month for 2022. This is, as you know, this is a pivotal time for Black people in this country. Whether we want to learn about our history from the transatlantic slave trade to the current moment. Right. Where do you stand on this? How do you feel about how people are discussing our history, whether it should be taught or not taught in the schools?
Well, it should be taught in school, because we are America. We have put in so much labor, our ancestors, and even to this day, we still laboring and don't get recognition for it, and it's amazing. I think that we are getting stereotyped, but I think right now it's time for us to elevate and just let it loose, let it be known. Don't be afraid to tell people that Black people matter. We matter. I matter, and
I know that's right.
I respect everybody, every color, every creed. But give us our due. Don't give us those 30 days or 28 days. This has to be talked about every single day. Every day.
Yes, sir.
That's my opinion.
No, I think it's straightforward. I wouldn't expect anything less. And then now when you're looking at, music in terms of the impact that music can make on the culture, the business of music. Are you kind of at a awe or at a, astounded by how music has Black music rather, has become the predominant sound of America? Or did you kind of foresee this happening?
Well, I didn't definitely foresee it happening, but it's now happening right now, because you remember they used to downplay back in history. That's part of Black history too. How R&B music never really got recognition for anything.
Right.
But a lot of the rock groups, the greatest rock band ever, the Rolling Stones, started singing black cover songs.
Mm.
And they sold, of course, we knew it was R&B, but they made it rock music, and the white audience, they took it and embraced it, but they also knew where it came from. Oh, that's a good version of the Temptation song.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So now, for us to get recognition now, I think in the Bible it says, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. That's what's going on. So now you're saying we so-called are the last, we're rising to the top. A prophetic word was spoken many, many years ago before me and you was born. And now it's happening in the black music industry. That's what's happening.
That is what's happening. What do you tell black musicians today, Sugar Bear? What do you tell them? How do you prepare them for the ups and downs of being a part of music and the entertainment industry, and making sure that they keep their authenticity, making sure they keep their integrity, making sure that they don't lose themselves in that space?
Well, it's like this, my opinion. I would tell them, if you don't have passion for what you do, you're gonna fail anyway. So whatever roadblocks come your way, keep going. Don't let nobody tell you can't. You can't. Or this ain't gonna work. If you believe it in your heart, it's for you, go get it. And guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it's gonna happen. And that's why I tell anybody that. And all this stuff that's going on in the industry is true. And watch those movies, James Brown stories, New Edition, The Temptation, The 5 Heartbeats. That's real. Those are real stories. So I would tell you, if you want to be a musician or you got a band or a singing group, anything, always seek God first and go straight to the top.
Come on, brother. Come on. I'm watching the Kanye West documentary.
You watching that?
Yeah, I'm watching Kanye West.
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it yet. It was right on Netflix, and I'm not a Kanye West fan of him now. But
the brother's talented. He's very talented.
No, Sugar Bear.
The
man is, and look, I know he's talented, but the biggest figure in his life, his mother Donda West, I did not know, prior to him coming out. But when I saw this documentary, I said to myself, oh, that was his heartbeat and his backbone.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know it at that time. But that woman, she created Kanye West. She put all of that in him. So that just, that was one of the big things that I took. But I think, like, to the point that you just made there, brother, that level of persistence and tenacity, like I heard Jay-Z say this. He said, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you.
Thank you. That's facts.
And Kanye believed in himself so much. And so many different artists that have come in and kind of fell and fallen out. But those who believe in themselves, they still around. They still.
I'm living proof.
You doing it. You doing it.
And you know how long I've been doing it?
Come on, I don't want to say. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you say it because you probably.
Huh?
How long you been doing this?
How old are you?
I'm 42.
Add 8.
Damn.
God is great.
God is real great.
See what I'm saying? It's my passion. And I still have the same desires. I still have the same nervousness sometimes when I get on stage. But once I'm there, I'm gone. I'm in another world.
That is awesome.
That's what it's all about. And to feel the love from people and the generations, it's amazing.
That is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. I want to bring B Fly. She's another creative, dynamic, musical film artist. B, you talking to the legend Sugar Bear.
Listen, I'm like, I'm time traveling right now. Hi, Sugar Bear. How are you? Listen, you got me in big trouble, okay? When I was like 10, 11 years old, I was not supposed to be doing the bye. But let me tell you, it was important. It was important, and it is still like shifting the culture.
Yes.
So I thank you. I want to know, what are you are you still writing music? Are you creating new? Are you writing songs? Are you songwriting for other people? Are you recording right now? What is going on today, present? Because
we are. I'm sorry, we are recording right now as you speak, and I'm working on a whole nother go-go, hard hitter, multicultural CD. And it's gonna be a little rock in there too. That's
so
what Experience Unlimited is. There's no limit to our experience, so you have to explore all those territories.
So when can we see you perform? Are you how are you handling the new the digital day from our analog background? Are you fully surfing the World Wide Web? Can we see you regularly on all social media platforms?
Yes. And I'm the one thing about when you see EU, we are still playing our instruments. So we do real congos, real drums, real bass guitars, real guitars, real horns, real vocalists. We come at it live. So when you see us, you're gonna move. That's all I'm gonna say. You're gonna move. I'm guaranteeing you. You're gonna
move that butt. Is that what you're telling us?
That's right.
Going to listen.
Sack side.
See, I'm grown now. I can do it. I'm grown now. I can't wait. I'm grown now. And Blackwater Production House would love to collaborate with you in Baltimore whenever you are in our area. Come on down. Let's play. Let's play.
We just did the CIAA up here.
Yes. Oh, really?
We moved from North Carolina to up Baltimore.
Yep.
They just moved this year.
So are you in this DMV area still?
Yes. Still in Washington, D.C. Still
Wonderful.
here.
Wonderful. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we're going to make that connection. We will make that connection.
Please do.
Hey, Sugar Bear, I appreciate you so much. We appreciate you for your sacrifice, your talents, your insight, and for you just to come on here and just to talk about it. I mean, you're like an unsung hero, especially in the classroom. That right there puts you in a high category, right? You know what I mean? Yes, you make great music. Yes, you shifted the culture. Yes, you're taking the culture of go-go to the next step. But to add to the fact that you put 20 plus years in the classroom working with our special ed children, I mean, that just puts you in a whole different class. So, brother, we thank you. We look forward that when you have your next project, whatever it's your next single, whatever, please don't hesitate to come back here on the culture. We would love
I'm coming back. As long as you invite me, I'm coming back.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, this is your home, bro. This is your home.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we truly appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you and all of y'all. Love y'all. And y'all will definitely hear EU real soon. Keep your ears open.
That's what I'm talking about, folks. Sugar Bear, go-go legend, educator, man, doing it real big. Check out their museum exhibition at the Smithsonian's National African American History and Culture Museum. Their display, Experience Unlimited. You can see the EU display right now at the Museum of History and Culture. All right, got to take a quick pause. When we come back, trends, post, and doing the most. Stay with us. It's the culture on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, it's time for your favorite segment. Let's go. All right, folks, time for Trends, Posts, and Doing the Most. Let's bring, I need to bring back B-Fly. Wait. No, B-Fly did not. No.
That didn't happen.
You gotta love live, man. You gotta love live TV. Oh, I was not prepared.
Hello.
Oh man. Oh, first and foremost, B had to get some water, y'all. Oh, there ain't no water in no glass like that. Anyway, that's not no water.
It's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. B, we talked to Sugar Man. How's that? How you like that one right there?
Listen, I was like, oh, I'm about to get in trouble. Because I remember the white biker shorts that I snuck to school in my backpack to change into. And it was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing.
Summer.
You were still in Cali in that time, right?
Yes. It's hard for me to embrace the whole leggings, jeggings from head to toe, because I still hear my mother policing me because of my butt. And so so it's just on and on and on. Sarah Bardem, and you know what I'm saying? It's just,
I get it. I remember in Baltimore here where we grew up, and that was, go-go music, depending on where you are, you either love it or you don't, or you're not vibing to it, you know what I'm saying? But that song, every cookout.
And let's just,
it was like
go-go.
Frankie Beverly and Maze, and then somebody play that go-go music, and you just and you just
ain't nothing wrong. You feel like it's a part of it. It's why I am in the line of work that I'm in.
Yeah,
it's important. Songs shape our culture.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. Like go-go is a live experience.
Oh yeah. No doubt.
Go-go is a live experience. So there is no way for you to experience go-go and not feel it in you and not move with it, in its rawest trash can lid form.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Let me just share with you a couple of things that are trending right now, folks. One is LeBron James production company Uninterrupted is set to produce a baseball documentary titled After Jackie, which is based on Jackie Robinson's private letters. Now, the 2-hour documentary will be executive produced by LeBron, his partner Maverick Carter, and by Emmy Award-winning and Academy Award-nominated director Stanley Nelson, the critically acclaimed producer Andre Gaines will direct. And according to the word about this, this will be a 2-hour film that tells the story of the second wave of Black baseball players after Jackie Robinson, such as Bill White, Kurt Flood, and Bob Gibson, who were up next in the fight for equality. And after Jackie honors these brave men, many whose stories are unknown, who put their lives on the line to integrate baseball and demand a fairer, more inclusive America for African American athletes around the world. Real quick, B, I'm seeing something about LeBron. LeBron, the kind of LeBron, a conscious dude.
You know, he really is, and I think he always has been. And he's now just in a position to put his privilege to work. And we see how he's working his privilege for the culture, and that's what is important. That is what we expect our Black celebrity to do. You know,
absolutely.
and so when they walk into it, when we walk into it, it's important, you know. And so shouts out to LeBron, you know. And there's a real multi-hyphenate explosion happening with us right now, and so it's great being able to see him go from being an athlete to being a producer.
Oh yeah, and I'm loving the multi-hyphens. You know what I'm saying? I want to be multi-hyphenated. You know what I'm saying?
You are multi-hyphenated.
I am multi-hyphenated. But you know what I mean? Like, I love that. I love that. And I feel like nowadays it's expected. You know, when I grew up, look, when I went to School for the Arts here in Baltimore, they used to call it the triple threat. Singer, actor, dancer. Like, if you have all of those skills or those talents, right, you were a triple threat. And now we're starting to see people being triple threats. And they may not be singing and dancing, but they're directing, they're producing. You're a director, you're a producer, you're an actress, you do the score. You know what I'm saying? It's like the whole thing. So I'm loving it. All right. So we started off this conversation today talking about Black boys. And I wanted to end the conversation today talking about Black boys. If you did not know, Time Magazine has spoken and has chosen 11-year-old Orion Jean as its 2021 Kid of the Year. Check this out. Look what this little brother did. He's a Haitian. Look, he's from Haiti. His family is from Haiti. And basically, he went during the early parts of the pandemic. He asked this question about let me turn off my volume on this computer. But he went on talking about happiness and what would you do? How can you do your part to bring happiness and peace into the world? A very big question, but for this 11-year-old, it became his mission statement. And so as a result of his going out there and asking this question on social media, he got a ton of responses around this question, and it allowed him to start an organization on how to spread kindness to people in your neighborhood, in your school, and around the globe. It earned him the big honor of being Time Kid of the Year for 2021. B, how beautiful is that?
You know,
he looked like your son and my son, B, a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I know my heart started beating, and I'm like, I need to blow this up and put this right over my son's bed. You know, so he knows, and it goes into all of the imagery that he's baptized in, you know, and it's important. And you know, Farajii, happiness and joy for Black people is its own revolutionary act.
Woo, ain't it?
It is a true ministry on these streets, you know? And so, and this is coming from a woman who embraces rage as a love language. But the happy
She just freeze up on her. There we go. There we go. We got it back. No, it's all good.
Happy is important, and and we have to spread that. And to see our Black boys participating in that, being curators of joy, that's our future.
I'm loving it. Look, that question, like I said, he asked the question, can kindness change a nation? And I think that the other part about his story is that even though some of us, as in our adult years, we become jaded by reality of being an adult, living in America, living in this, crazy time that we're in, that sometimes that when a child asks a hopeful question, some of us may want to rain on that parade. And I'm saying that we can't. I am a huge advocate of allowing children to be children. And I'm a greater advocate of allowing children to be hopeful. And so, yes, I think that just something as simple question, can kindness change a country or change a nation? It's a big question. Yes, it can, Orion. It can change a nation if the people are willing to do it, B. That's it. If the people are willing to do it. If they are not willing to be kind, I don't know. But I'm so happy that Time Magazine thought it was a great question, and more importantly, it came from a fantastic little young brother. And I'm so happy he's from Haiti. People from Haiti, man. I mean, our brothers and sisters down in Haiti, man, they get some of the. I think they get the worst rap. You know what I mean? They just you know what I mean? Because we think of them as this poor, decrepit type of place, and oh no, man, you got beautiful people. My homeboy, my best friend is from Haiti. Like, you got beautiful people coming from that part of the world, and I think it's just shines a light to talk about the beauty of the Haitian people. So it's all good. But yeah, I think I'm gonna take you up on your idea though. Should print that out and put it right up there next to Nigel. Like, Nigel, this is just want to let you know what another little brother's doing. You don't have to be like him, but y'all are on the same path. That's all it is. B, thank you so much today. You holding it down with me. I appreciate you. Blackwater, as always, in the building. I appreciate that, B. And how can people follow you? I just want to throw it out there. How can people follow you on social media?
I'm having an audio issue over here on my end.
We can hear you right now. Just throw it out there. Where people should follow you at, B? Which one? Let's bring her screen up. I want to make sure we got Black Jesus. If y'all don't know B, oh, she having an audio issue. All right, we're gonna make sure she get her social media out there, folks. But B, we thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you for checking in and being our culture crew member for the day. Thank you. And folks, make sure you check out Black Jesus on all social media platforms. All right, that's going to do it for me, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation and the show just as much as I have. We thank Sugar Bear for being a part of the discussion. We thank Professor Dr. Gerald Horn for being a part of the conversation. And most importantly, we thank you for joining us, for tuning in. Make sure you continue to show your support for Black Star Network. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. We want to continue to raise funds for Black-owned media, but most importantly, we want to make sure that we can put this platform out there to more and more people. So share it with your family, your friends, and support Black Star Network, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. Any way you can transfer money, make sure you do that. Just give something to help us in our great effort to strengthen the voice of Black media on this digital landscape. That's going to do it for me. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Stay tuned at the 6 o'clock hour. My big brother Roland Martin, with Roland Martin Unfiltered, will be coming right at you. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace.